I sort of feel unstoppable at this point. You know, I also have kids and a life, but I love what I do. I love what I do. I love this company. What I've done over the past 6 years was really hard. I genuinely believe a lot of people couldn't have done it. We had a lot of headwinds, but we did it. And, you know, I've been through challenges in my personal life that just kind of make me feel unbreakable.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to How She Does It, where we meet extraordinary women who share how they made it to the top of their profession, the good, the difficult, and everything in between. I'm Karen Feinerman. I'm a longtime Wall Street investor, a mom of four, and a panelist on CNBC's Fast Money. It's no secret that I'm a big admirer of Jamie Dimon's leadership at JPMorgan. And one of the things he has been very successful at is identifying and promoting smart women across the business. Fortune magazine called the pipeline of female talent at JPMorgan, quote, the envy of Wall Street. And that includes our guest today, Kristin Lemkau. She is Chief Executive Officer of JPMorgan Wealth Management at JPMorgan Chase, where she oversees more than $1 trillion in assets. She stepped into the role in early 2020 and has since led what she calls the fastest growing business in the most profitable and successful bank in the world. But her personal story is just as remarkable. She is the oldest of four siblings, all of whom are high achievers in the business world. She made the leap to CEO of Wealth Management from marketing, which is not always seen as the most obvious path. And more recently, she's been navigating life as a single mom to two teenagers. Kristin joined me in the studio, and we chatted about her approach to scaling the business, how her perspective has evolved on what it means to be ambitious, and the very real and sometimes messy transition she and her family faced as she took on the responsibilities of being a single parent. This was a really lovely conversation. Hope you enjoy. Kristin Lemkau, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm kind of surprised we actually have never met.
I was just saying we probably have and haven't connected it, but I've heard so much about you and I'm a big fan. So.
Oh, well, thank you. So we'll jump right in. You are the CEO of JPMorgan Wealth Management and Jamie Dimon.
Yeah.
Who you know I love.
We all do.
Yes.
Most of the time.
He's very intentional about his leadership team.
Yeah.
So how did this opportunity come to you?
Like most of them, sort of unexpectedly. I know you're a big advocate of being a proponent of your career and being purposeful, and I may not be a great example of that. But in my previous job where I was running marketing, he and Gordon Smith and Mary Erdos asked me to do a body of work on how we would grow the wealth management business in the U.S. Because as a marketer, your job is to grow things. And they said, we're punching below our weight. We don't have this figured out. So I did that work for 3 or 4 months. And over the course of that, either they were testing me or it clicked or one thing or another. They asked me to run it. And so I took over the business January of 2020.
So
wow.
Propitious timing,
Yes.
January of 2020. Okay, so you're transitioning into the business.
Yeah.
And the world is transitioning. And so I know you're a confident person, but did you feel overwhelmed? I mean, that's...
Totally. And, you know, the interesting thing is, to your point about being intentional with leadership, if you looked at my resume, I was totally unqualified for the job, other than the fact that I'd done a lot of different things at JPMorgan well. And I've observed Jamie and Gordon and Mary and how they find people who have the right leadership skills to succeed at JPMorgan, which is, I think, an interesting blend of being collaborative but knowing how to execute, and then taking a chance that they can learn the subject matter. That said, I was totally overwhelmed. And when I went in to accept the job, Jamie he almost looked nervous for me. And I said, you know what? This is a no-lose proposition for you because I will know I'm failing before you will. And I will tell you, I love this company too much. I have too much respect for you. If I can't do it, I'll raise my hand and you can let me go back to doing marketing or something else. So it'll be fine. And I think it sort of took the pressure off him. I mean, I knew I was going to kill it and I did kill it. But
I love that you say that.
Oh, totally.
Good for you.
It's gone from $500 billion to $1.3 trillion. We've gone to from 3,600 advisors to more than 6,000. Every metric has knocked it off. But that first year, whoa. It was a lot.
So the pandemic happens and you're deciding, okay, we're going to work from home.
Yeah, well, it was worse than that. It was a group of businesses that were spread out throughout the company and were much smaller parts of bigger businesses, which was why we were punching below our weight. So I had no management team. I had no budget. I had no technology. I had no infrastructure. I had no field leadership. Not everybody in the company was super happy that these businesses had come together. And I had to send my entire sales force home within my first 10 weeks on the job. And it was a sales force that had never worked at home before. They had no home computers. They had no VDI, nothing. My revenue went to zero. And so that was a pretty wild first year.
And so while all that's happening, what kind of support are you getting from Mary or Jamie?
Well, remember, in the middle of it all, Jamie almost died.
Yes.
He had the heart issue, right. And so he was out for about 3 months. So that yet another plot line. And I had to take all my security exams. Gordon and Mary were great. Like, they were great, trying to give me the kind of support and infrastructure. But part of the reason they put me in the job is they knew I would figure it out. And when you're reporting to people that senior, like, you got to figure it out. You can't call, wah, 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 help me. You got to figure it out, which I did. But yeah, I had my kids at home and I had to learn how to cook, all of the things that I didn't quite expect.
So also at that time, the market's kind of going berserk.
It went berserk.
Down
in
and
March.
Up.
Yeah. And my trading platform shut down for 2 days in March. That was super fun.
Really?
Overloaded.
Wow. All right. So you're helping people manage their money. That's the purpose of your business. And that involves trust. Right. So some days you take on the role of therapist. Tell me what that interaction is like.
Mostly my job is to manage the advisors who manage the clients, but absolutely.
You got to manage them too while they may be freaking out.
Oh, yeah. And they're an interesting sales force because they don't always want to do what you want them to do, but they really love their clients. And we've tried to give them the tools to be much more of that life quarterback, not just the person managing the money, because they are the go-to person when bad things happen, when good things happen. They need to be good listeners. They need to have a relationship with the whole family. They need to know how to do financial planning, which is something we've spent a lot of time about because that's where the industry is going. Get people to identify their goals and then allocate assets for that goal as opposed to whether or not you're going to beat the benchmark one quarter after another. And so we've built up the infrastructure to support the advisors. I love to say AI will never take out a financial advisor or a doctor or an electrician. Like, there's certain jobs that are solid. And I firmly believe when it comes to your money, your health, or your family, you're going to want to talk to a person. I think AI is going to make their jobs a lot better, but they will exist forever.
So when you got there, you talked about it really not having a lot of resources. Financial planning wasn't at all in their, their toolkit?
Not in the way that it needed to be. We had a pretty bare bones financial planning tool. Less than a third of our clients were on a plan. So we built our own. We spent $100 million in 2 years, and we built our own tool that is both client facing, so the client can play with the thing. And there's a version on the back end for advisors that helps them give a really strong proposal. And to your point about being that emotional connection, if you're connecting with a plan, I need to retire, I want to send my kid to college, I want to buy a second house, that's a much more powerful connection than just, let's put you in 60% equities and 20% fixed income and blah, blah, blah.
Obviously, there's been significant growth under your leadership.
Yes.
And what did you bring to the table that made that happen? How did you do that?
We set a 5-year strategy, which is we're going to get from $500 billion to $1 trillion in 5 years. And we had really clear ways to do that. And this is maybe going to sound juvenile, but I'm like, we have our 5 big rocks. Here are the 5 things we need to do to get to $1 trillion. And they're really clear, and everyone in my organization can tell you what they are. And they're generally very consistent year over year. That's one thing. You set a strategy and you focus the entire 10,000 people on execution. And the second thing was I got the best team. And that's easy to say, but I have about half people who came from inside the organization, so they know how to get things done here. And JPMorgan hadn't brought in a lot of talent from the outside. So I was like, okay, who's the best at hybrid advice? Vanguard, let's go hire that person. Who's the best at content? Fidelity, let's go hire that person. They all told me no, like the first 2 or 3 times, but I grew on them. I'm like, listen, I'm not going away. So you might as well give in. And they're all happy now.
All right. Now, do you have a new set of goals? I'm sure it evolves over the 5 years as well. But
we're going to get to $2 trillion by the end of 2030. I said we've doubled assets. We're going to double them again. We're at 1.3 trillion, so we're on pace.
And why do you think it came to be that JPMorgan never did have this until they decided to get serious about it?
Well, we had it, but we were late on self-directed, and we decided to build our own, which I'm glad now, but that was painful. And that was really a small part of the private bank. And the financial advisors who work out of the branches, they're JPMorgan advisors, but they're in Chase branches, were part of the deposit business, which has huge margins and huge growth. And so it was the smallest part of that business, and it wasn't growing. And it became super clear you can't minor in investments. This can't be something that's the smallest part of a much bigger margin business because it won't get the growth and the investment that it need. So that's why we pulled it out and decided to grow it. That said, $2 trillion is still teeny compared to Morgan Stanley or Fidelity or Vanguard or some of these other giants. So we still have decades to catch up to the leaders. We will.
But for your career development, which is really interesting, you talked about people don't generally go from marketing, but it seemed to be a natural segue in that it's all about growth.
It's all about growth. It's how you do marketing. My job was to grow the business. It was to sell credit cards and checking accounts and then eventually investment accounts. And if you know how to grow things, then you'd be a great CEO.
Okay, so what were your feelings about leaving the CMO job?
I didn't want to leave that job. I loved that job. And I thought, I can't leave. I'm in the middle of my tech stack redesign. I can't leave my team. And then I realized, like, the team's going to be fine. And I loved that job because I loved that job. I made it into something that I loved, and I will love the next job. I didn't love the first year, but I love it now.
So when you were in the CMO job, you were killing it, right?
Yeah.
And you thought, that's it. This is my last job.
Oh, totally. I thought my last 3 jobs were my last job. I loved it. Thought it was great. When they offered me the job, my husband was like, don't do that. Don't do that. You love what you're doing. Like, why would you go? You know, you're happier than you've ever been. Why would you go do something gnarly like that? And it was one of my brothers. My brother, Greg, was like, you got to do it. You got to do it. Like, you're wound the way you're wound. If they have enough trust in you, you have to do it. And Jen Peepsack, who's the COO of the company, who's a good friend of mine, ended up being my boss, said to me, and it's a great question to ask yourself of, how are you going to feel if they announce some other guy in that job? I'm like, well, I'm going to throw up. She said, well, then you know your answer.
Jen Peepsack has had an extraordinary career and took herself out of the running.
She did.
For the CEO role, which I was surprised about, to be honest. How do you think about that?
I think she feels strongly that her best use at the company is to be a right hand to Jamie. And she's an extraordinary right hand to Jamie, and he trusts her and he likes her. And that's an important role for him and for her. And she's a real person. She's got 3 kids. She loves her husband. She has good friends. Following Jamie Dimon's going to be a hard gig for anyone.
Anybody, yeah.
And I think this was her chosen path. I have a ton of respect for her for it.
So how has your own ambition evolved?
I sort of feel unstoppable at this point. You know, I also have kids and a life, but I love what I do. I love what I do. I love this company. What I've done over the past 6 years was really hard. I genuinely believe a lot of people couldn't have done it. We had a lot of headwinds, but we did it. And, you know, I've been through challenges in my personal life that just kind of make me feel unbreakable.
Okay, so let's just talk about that. 2022, you become a single mom.
Yes. My husband passed away. It's impossible to put into words how brutal that experience is unless you've been through it. When people say they can't imagine, they can't. My kids were 15 and 13 at the time. He was a stay-at-home dad, so he did all the driving and the coaching and the cooking, and I knew the passwords to nothing. I had not been inside a Costco. I hadn't paid a bill in 17 years. So we had the, obvious emotional trauma from that, but like logistically, my life was in shambles. So you move forward and you figure out a way to move forward because you have to. And I'm so proud of my children. They're 18 and 16 now. My oldest is in college. My youngest just got his driver's license. So big milestones.
Good luck to you.
Yeah, I know. But we still live with it every day. Mm-hmm. And will.
But then, so while you're dealing with this tremendous loss,
we bought First Republic.
You bought First Republic, which is a great bank. Was a great.
It is. It had some issues.
It definitely had some issues.
But it had some talented people.
But you're facing this enormous loss, and you also have to run the lives now of you and your children.
Yes.
Where you didn't know anything.
I knew nothing.
How did you...
The school they went to has 6 apps. I sat down with the superintendent who I knew well because my husband was on the school board. And I'm like, Eric, I work for a company that has 80 million clients and we have one freaking app. What is with this one for the lunch money and the sports and the... I came to the sad conclusion that once you get outside of J.P. Morgan, things don't work well. I'm at work, people listen to me, things run efficiently. I'm outside of work. They deliver the wrong couch to my house 3 times and then put me on hold for 75 minutes. Like, you have to go to the DMV, you have to have original documents. I had to figure all of this stuff out. And the CEO thing, no one cares. I'm like, well, I'm a widow. Does that work? Like, what? Nope. No one cares. So it was a lot to manage. I was really clear that my children were going to come first. Now, they were in high school, so they were much more independent. But, I had the discussion with them many times of, I will stop doing this if we decide we need to focus on this family. And both of them were pretty clear, like, no, no, because they had seen me go mildly crazy when I took 2 months off. But my kids knew, one, I loved what I did. And I don't think they wanted me in their grill 24/7 because they both really needed a lot of space to process what had happened to them. But, it was a challenge. My daughter was on a national travel volleyball team, so we were going to tournaments every weekend. My son changed schools and then changed schools again.
And while you were in those days, could you imagine sort of the life after?
No, it felt impossible. And it was impossible. And there's some days I'm like, this is impossible. I've listened to your podcast about how people try to make things work. But, there's certain milestones you have with your kids. It's when they learn to walk, when they learn to talk, when they can feed themselves, when they can go to the bathroom by themselves, when they can go to school, and then when they go to college and when they drive, not in that order. And I knew it was just going to be like 3 or 4 years until I could give them the scaffolding to be a bit more independent. And then I'd probably be glad I still stayed at work. This is my community. I've been there 27 years. These are my friends. I have more in common with these people than a lot of the people in my community at home. And they were extraordinarily supportive.
It's great, but not surprising to hear. So how did it come to be that you had this household where your husband said, all right, I'm going to be the stay-at-home parent?
Yep.
What was that discussion like? How did that evolve?
We'd had it before we got married. My career was still going like this. He didn't love his as much. We tried it for about 6 months. And then I think we just realized that we wanted to have a different type of relationship with our kids. And I'm super fortunate. And I know you've talked a lot about ensuring that you end up with a partner who supports not just your ambition, but your whole self. And so I was lucky.
I have to think it's something more than luck, but that you could make it work also.
Yeah. And it's like I will take credit for making a good choice. And when I was younger, I don't know if I would have been smart enough to pick such a solid dude.
Okay, so your daughter's a freshman in college.
Yes.
And your son's a junior in high school. What do your days look like?
Generally up pretty early. Sometimes work out in the morning. Try to get my son up. That takes several efforts. I let my dog out, and then I take Metro North right to the city. I've got a pretty short commute. Usually start my day around 8 and work till about 6, and then come home, have dinner with my son, and then I go online, start my second shift if my dog lets me. Exercise then if I haven't. But it's a pretty good routine. I don't do a lot of stuff outside of work and my family. I'm starting to more. But for a while, I just shut all that down, and it was kids, work, self, much further down the list.
Okay, so somewhere along the line, you got into the important work of getting enough sleep.
Yes.
Okay.
I was so surprised how viral that article went.
All right. I just can't get there, but I want to hear how you did it.
I did a couple things. My main lesson for people as far as grief and trauma goes is to take care of your physical health. I believe profoundly the connection between physical health and mental health is like the thing. I got myself a great doctor, like a quote concierge doctor. It's basically a doctor that'll return your calls. I take magnesium at night. You'd be surprised how much that works. And I got into a much stronger exercise program, nutrition, don't really drink anymore. There's like a lot of things that all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I feel so much better.
Really? So what's a full night's sleep for you?
8 hours.
8.
Go to bed around, usually during the week it's closer to 7. I go to bed around 9:30, 10. I wake up at 6. Sometimes 5:30.
Wow. Okay. I got to think that from that comes so many other good things.
But it's simple things. It's if you get enough exercise, you take magnesium, I hate to say it, and you don't drink alcohol, you will sleep.
Okay, that's a whole other show. I don't drink, I exercise, I don't take magnesium, I tried it, but...
The other hack I have on this one...
Yes, what is the hack?
The hack is I write my to-do list before I go to bed.
Okay, that's really good.
Because that would kill me.
Yes.
It's my head of, oh my God, I forgot to call the dentist. Especially as a single mom, it's like endless, all the stuff that's in my head. I write it all down so it can't invade.
So it leaves the space. How has being a single mom changed the way you manage your team at work?
I'm super intentional about my time. I think I'm much more focused on people as a whole human being, because what happens outside of work is going to affect your performance at work much more so than the markets or interest rates or anything else. I hope I'm more empathetic and maybe more vulnerable than I have been before. But also people know, don't waste my time or God help you, because if it's 10 hours that I'm physically in the office and I need to get home for my kids' basketball game or volleyball game, and they come to me with something frivolous, like, But, empathy, people talk a lot about empathy. It's not really till the shit hits the fan in your life that I think you really learn empathy for an entire human being.
So you are one of 4.
Yes.
Each of you are quite successful. So take us through each one.
Sure. There's me. I'm the oldest and definitely the most attractive. My brother Greg, who was at Goldman Sachs for a long time, and he's CEO of BDT MSD.
Rolls right off the tongue.
As I like to tease him, it sounds like a COVID variant, but that's Michael Dell's private equity company that he co-runs with Byron Trott, legendary Buffett banker. My brother Chip, who is actually a top producing financial advisor at Goldman Sachs, and my sister Holly, who runs a business at Teneo.
You all have big jobs. How did that happen?
We've thought a lot about it. We've talked about it, although not that much. And I don't know that we have a consistent answer. My answer is my parents had us by the time they were 28 and 30. Like, they didn't really know what they were doing. And there was no tiger parenting. There was no helicopter parenting. It probably looked more like, I guess, what they call free range, where you just take your bike around. And my mom had a bell in the backyard that should ring when it was time to come home for dinner. We did always work. We either had an allowance, or once we got to high school, it was, you got to work. But I think we were all pretty driven. Some of that just comes from within. Like my brother said, you're wound the way you're wound. But they were great. My dad worked at Merrill Lynch for most of his career. My mom didn't work and then went back to work in real estate when I was in high school.
So when your mom didn't work, did you always think you would work?
She didn't work, but she started her own jewelry company. She always had something happening. She was my softball coach, and then she was my sister's softball coach. So she was always busy.
Mm-hmm. So what was your first job?
Oh, selling toilet seats at the Short Hills Mall.
Do you know, I can't tell you how often I get that answer.
You can't return them. They were luxury toilet seats. There was one that had all JFK $50 in lucite that was $100 at the time.
Wow.
Yes, you learn how to tell people no. No, you can't return that toilet seat. It says it right here on the cash register.
Okay. That is quite an unusual first job, I gotta say. So when you're raising your kids, what did you teach them about work and money and life?
Yeah, I probably haven't done an awesome job, which is super ironic. They know they need to earn their own money. I've said to them really clearly, I will make sure you have enough to go to college and maybe help you get started. But other than that, I'm spending every last dollar. I'm going to bounce my last check and you guys are going to figure it out. And so they know earn your own money and have your own sort of financial independence. I don't know that they have a great sense of how much they're spending on Uber Eats right now, but that's what I've tried to instill in them. And they're both pretty disciplined and ambitious in their own way.
Was your message to your daughter any different than your message to your son?
No. I mean, they're very different people, as you know, from having four, but it's been the same message. What it takes to motivate them is a little different.
All right, let me switch gears a little bit. There are some perks that come from being a big executive at J.P. Morgan. I remember running into Mary Erdos at the U.S. Open and saying, are you going to present the check? And she said, no, Kristin Lemkau is going to do it. And that was the year of the Naomi Osaka-Serena Williams match, which was one of the craziest matches I've ever been to.
Me too.
What was that like?
Oh, it's a great story, actually. I was chief marketing officer. Serena was our athlete. I had signed Serena's contract. We had become friends. She had just had her baby. I threw a party for her on the Intrepid before the match started. We did an ad called This Mama. And I saw her on the Intrepid and I said, I'm going to present the check this year. And she looked at me and she's super superstitious, actually. And she's like, we're not going to talk about it. I said, okay. So I watched the match where she played Venus. I was sitting with Alexis. I saw her after the match. She's like, we're not going to talk about it. Meanwhile, the Naomi Osaka match happens. I'm in my suite with Kevin Hart. I'm shooting Honey Deuces. He's telling the funniest story I've ever heard in my life, which I cannot repeat. And Andy Roddick's in my suite, and he comes over, and he's white as a sheet, and he's like, did you see what just happened? I'm like, what? No, Honey Deuce. Like, wipe my mascara. And before I know it, the U.S. Open people show up, and they're white as a sheet, and like, you got to go down. Serena's about to lose. I'm like, wait, what? And I'm like, sober up, go in. My husband's with me taking pictures. Kevin Hart's like, where are you going? I said, what's her name again? And I got down there and it was surreal. It's the only check presentation ceremony that I think has ever been watched, ever. And the crowd's booing. Naomi's crying. Serena's got her arm around me. She's like, I just knew you weren't going to be able to give me that check. I'm like, what just happened? My whole speech that I had practiced that was going to go viral was out the window. And then I went over to give Naomi the check. She's sobbing. She's like 16 or something. And the mom in me comes out and I held her hands and I said, do not let this be about anything other than how hard you've worked and how much you deserve this and that you're a champion. And she started crying harder.
That was really quite an extraordinary match. It wasn't Serena's finest moment.
Nope.
But the way that she dealt with Naomi was so kind. Naomi was upset that, people wanted Serena to win and I'm sorry I ruined their hopes. And Serena was, it seemed to be telling her, no, that's not. She
was very gracious.
Very gracious.
And they had interactions, obviously, privately after the match that tried to, I think, encourage Naomi. But yeah, that was a wild one.
I think it was I go every year for 20 plus years to the women's final, no matter what. That was the wildest one that I've seen.
Yes. But yeah, that was an interesting perk. The U.S. Open, however, has become a really fun part of my job.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing. I mean, yeah, it's such a New
You
York...
can get anyone you want to go to that event. Like
Yes.
celebrities, anyone. It's
Yeah.
great.
It's really great. So what other sort of pinch me moments have you had at J.P. Morgan?
Man, a lot. I met David Ortiz. I'm a huge Boston sports fan. That was wild. I have sat courtside in more basketball games than I can count. I love basketball. I meet interesting people, whether they're famous people or business people. And I have a lot of exposure to Jamie and the senior people at J.P. Morgan, which is an extraordinary gift. I've worked on or around Jamie for 22 years.
He's really quite an extraordinary executive that
Yes, he is.
we won't see the likes of again for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you tell your team about what message they have, particularly for women in taking control of their finances?
Oof. I mean, our brand purpose is to help people make the most of their money, but it's also the reason, back to our earlier conversation, of why I love what I do so much, which is people care the most about their health, their family, and their money, and not always in that order. And so many people, and in particular so many women, don't have enough sense of where it is, what they should do with it, how it's being invested, what it can do for them. And so that's a big message that we try to tell all of our clients, but women in particular, because the statistics show they're underinvested compared to men. And the statistics show that they will inherit most of the money, is have some real agency in your financial life. Know where it is, earn your own if you can. If you've chosen not to, at least have an understanding of what your goal is, whether you have enough, are you going to be okay, or your kid's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. Many women I talk to seem to think there is a inherent education that men have from somewhere about how to run their financial lives that women don't, which is obviously not true.
It's 100% not true. I'm sure there's lots of cultural reasons that we can speculate about why men seem to have more confidence in doing that. And women generally can be a bit more risk averse, but that's fine. There's investment portfolios for everyone. You know, I'm an example of that. My husband was managing all of our money, and I had to figure it all out. Here I manage $1.3 trillion in assets, and I didn't have my act together. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to be an important part, hopefully, of the next decade or two to come as this wealth transfer happens, is that women start to really become the CFO of their own lives. Mm-hmm. And I know you've been a big advocate for that in your book, and thank you.
I believe it. That was my mom's message to me.
Yep.
So what did you do with the first big amount of money that you made?
Probably something stupid like most people. The first big purchase I made was my apartment in New York, which I could barely afford. I'm sure my first big bonus, I probably went to Barney's or something dumb, but felt good.
Barney's is great.
Felt good.
We are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the lightning round. Okay, Kristin, it's time for our lightning round. We have some fun questions for you. If you would you rather. All I ask is that you just, top of your head, answer whatever pops in. Okay, here we go. Would you rather shop on Fifth Avenue or shop at the mall at Short Hills?
I'd rather shop online. Can I say that?
Yes, you can. Okay. Would you rather be stuck in an elevator or stuck on hold with a customer service rep?
Oh, tough one, but I'd have to say a hold on a customer service rep because I get a little claustrophobic. But I hate both.
Would you rather have Vanderbilt's men's basketball team win the Final Four this year or have Vandy's football beat Alabama every year?
Vandy-Bama.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. This is years and years of getting beaten up by Alabama.
Mm-hmm. Understood. All right. Do you have a hidden talent?
No.
Okay.
You're looking at it. I'm funny.
Okay, that's not hidden.
I'm funny.
Okay. Funny is great. Funny makes everything better.
The kids don't think so, but I'm hilarious.
Okay. Would you rather hang out with Trevor Noah or hang out with LeBron James?
I've hung out with them both.
I know.
Actually, that's a tough one, but I'd have to say LeBron.
Okay, why that? Just because of
just pretty incredible human being. What an unbelievable athlete and person and role model.
Would you rather 30 minutes of exercise or 30 minutes of meditation?
Exercise. I'm a terrible meditator.
Me too. I tried it for 180 days in a row.
Yeah.
It was terrible every day. And I said, that's it.
Yeah, I can't do it. What they've said is you can sometimes do a moving meditation. So I'll do yoga and that counts.
Okay. Interesting. What is a must-have in your morning routine?
Coffee with a little protein powder in it.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm. What is something you've changed your mind about in the last year?
That someone's political beliefs don't define their character.
Ah, interesting.
Took me a while, but
okay.
yes.
Would you rather have a dark and stormy in Bermuda, where the drink was invented?
I know.
Or a dark and stormy on one of the top floors at 270 Park Avenue?
Bermuda. Is that a trick
Who
question?
Who cares about the $5 billion building?
I love that building.
Yeah.
I love that building, but I'm there every day. Bermuda's, I've been to twice.
What might be the title of your memoir?
Oh, man, that's probably changed. Figuring it out.
Okay, that's good. Would you rather vacation at Disney World or anywhere else in the world?
Anywhere else in the world. I took my kids to Disney 3 times before they were the age of 6. They have no memory of it. And I remember walking out of there saying, goodbye to Mickey. Bye. Say bye. You will not see him again until you have your own children. Mom and dad are done. Unless they start serving a lot more alcohol in this place.
I get that. I have a similar aversion to Disney World. My husband and I took our kids. After day 2, I literally said, I can't take it. I'm going home.
Yes.
And I left. And I was at the airport and I ran into people I knew. And I'm like, oh, I was here with the kids. And they're like, well, where are your kids? I had to say that I left them with my husband because I just couldn't take it anymore.
I did realize at that point my marriage was probably indestructible because we got through 3 trips without a cross word to each other.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Kids crying the whole time. Like anywhere else in the world.
Anywhere else. Yeah, I completely get it. Okay. What's the best advice you've been given?
If you want a bigger job, make your own job bigger.
Who gave you that?
I don't even remember. But it stuck with me because I think people wait for the tap on the shoulder. Just make your own job bigger and good things will happen. And by the time you get promoted, people will be surprised you didn't have it already.
Mm-hmm. Is that a thing women do more than men? Wait.
Yeah, I think they do. I think they do. Just as now an employer of 10,000 people, the people who come into my office and ask for the thing are typically more the men than the women.
Mm-hmm. Okay, last question, 2 parts.
Yeah.
What is the best investment you've ever made and the worst investment? And it's a broad definition of investment. Could be
best investment I ever made was marrying my husband. Worst investment I ever made was a Corvette I bought in my 20s when I was apparently having some kind of midlife crisis. But my dad was a car guy, and the thing broke down. It was a used Corvette on the way out of the dealership and broke down about 17 times since then.
You don't still have it, it sounds like.
Oh, hell no. No. I called my dad crying and said, will you get rid of it for me? Which he did. That was probably the dumbest purchase I ever made, not the trip to Barney's.
Okay. All right. Kristin, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending the time with us.
This was really fun. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for taking time to listen to our conversation on how she does it. Wishing you all a prosperous week. We'll have another great conversation for you soon. Until then, onward.